Celsius Holdings continues to set company records, but will that continue in 2020? I'll get to some thoughts around that introductory statement a bit later in this content, but just like the previous quarterly content for Celsius Holdings, I will use the recent earnings report, conference call, and any publicly disclosed news as the backdrop to talk about the broader energy beverage categorical and strategic market insights. So let's kind of jump into the most recent financial information. In the quarter four of 2021, Celsius Holdings did have revenue of $104.3 million. That was up 192% year over year and up 10% on a quarter over quarter sequential basis. Just to kind of reference that number, this is the first time in company history that they have delivered over $100 million in sales during a quarter. North America had sales of $95.9 million. That was up 238% year over year. International made up $8.3 million. That was up 15%. The Nordic region makes up the vast majority of the international revenue. In this quarter, it was 89%. So I just want to give you a few highlights there. Sweden improved to a 10% plus market share in the energy drinks. And then Finland maintained an over 28% market share in the fast protein bars. Shifting over to the cost side, gross profit margin was 39.9%. That was down 900 basis points year over year, but was slightly up sequentially. They had kind of the normal culprits, that is the increased kind of freight and raw material price inflation, but they also had gross margin compression coming from needing to import cans to fulfill their demand. Now, giving a little bit of a retail and distribution update, Celsius energy drinks are in 135,000 locations in North America. That was up 17,000 since the last reported quarter. Celsius now has around 276 regional DSD distributors. 98% of all the US population is now covered by that DSD network. 65% of all the large track channel accounts are now being serviced by that DSD network. And that DSD network delivered a growth of 362% year over year in distributor revenues. Now, they also have like a cooler strategy that's helping out there. They placed an additional 300 coolers in Q4. That brings up the total throughout 2021 to 1,200. These coolers are placed strategically in locations where they can drive additional velocity from like the immediate impulse purchases. It gives customers access to cold product availability and allows Celsius to take part in a larger part of the purchasing segment in the energy drink category. Additional cooler expansion and acceleration of that strategy will be seen throughout 2022. Now, Nielsen IQ data for the period ending February 12th of 2022, Celsius had some really impressive growth rates. The last 2 weeks, the growth rate was 233%. The last 4 weeks, that growth rate was 234%. And then the last 12 weeks, that growth rate was 227%. This compares to the overall energy drinks category that grew 15.5% year over year over the last 12 weeks. The company currently has about a 2.1% market share in the energy drink category, but that has hovered around 3.2% over the last month. I also want to kind of dive deeper into a few specific sales channels that will provide some additional color to the Celsius Holdings growth story. First one that I kind of always mention is the digital channel. This is the next frontier of retail, in my opinion, and having a long term integrated sales channel strategy needs to be centered around the digital channel. Even in energy drinks, even in beverage, this has been an area of huge strength for Celsius Holdings over the last few years, and they definitely outkicked their coverage, so to say, especially on Amazon. Celsius Holdings saw an increase on Amazon of 93.6% year over year. That outpaced the categorical average on Amazon for the last 4 weeks ending February 12th of 2022. They now are securely the second largest energy drink brand on Amazon, only behind Monster. They're now ahead of Red Bull by almost 7 percentage points. Also, an update on the Celsius global Amazon launches. So, Germany is scaling from its Q4 launch with that initial 3 Celsius SKUs. The UK has 3 initial Celsius SKUs and 6 fast protein bar SKUs that are now launched. And then France and Italy, Amazon launches are set for the current quarter of 2021 Q1. Now, the granddaddy of them all, sales channel, I have to kind of talk about that because a lot of things are happening with Celsius Holdings. If Celsius Holdings or really any energy drink brand wants to make any material impact in today's energy drink market, they must perform well in the convenience channel. This is where about two-thirds of all total sales in the energy drink market does happen. In the latest Nielsen last 13 weeks that I've seen, I think this was the end of 2021, showed that Celsius was growing 229% year over year compared to the categorical average of 10.9% growth in the convenience channel. Celsius has added 95% more C store locations year over year, now totals around 60,000 locations. And that channel store count growth doesn't mean that Celsius doesn't have like more runway left. The all commodity value, or ACV, which is kind of the weighted measure of product availability or distribution based on total sales, is only around 44% for Celsius. Want to also kind of mention around the fitness channel. Prior to the pandemic era, that was the largest of the companies, but things have really kind of drastically changed. Then that's not necessarily a bad thing. The fitness channel was the hardest hit from the COVID-19 effect in 2020, but they've rebounded and kind of drove additional sales at 91% year over year if we're looking at the entire 2021. Two ways to kind of look at that trend. Compared to the other channels that Celsius Holdings has focused on over the last 2 years and have been successful in, the fitness channel does have a much smaller categorical total addressable market. So, who really cares? But the other way to look at this is that Celsius Holdings needs that fitness channel. It provides them a foundation of influence that Celsius Holdings needs if they're going to be positioned as a health and fitness kind of clean energy performance energy brand. And if they lose that identity, they risk losing upward influence driven demand in other channels. That's why I think it's positive that you're seeing some wins in the fitness channel lately. I think they had a 150 location launch with Lifetime Fitness and then a partnership agreement with Cycle Bar as their official energy drink. But I do kind of want to shift this content away from sales channel performance and into like important customer demographics for Celsius Holdings. And this is going to be around the female energy drink buyer. Females have been traditionally kind of overlooked by the energy drink brands for really decades or ever since it came to market in the US. I've mentioned in previous kind of Celsius Holdings content that they do have a unique 50-50 male to female split in their customer base. This isn't typical of energy drink brands. They normally cater to the historical male dominated buyer group, but Celsius Holdings has consistently been able to drive new female energy drink consumers into the category. This contributes to likely around 10% of growth in 2021, but competition for those new and existing female customers is increasing fast. The biggest competitor for female energy drink buyers is Alani Nu right now. They have a tracked channel run rate at close to $175 million in sales, which is about half of what Celsius is, but Alani Nu has a growth rate of over 600% year over year, so super fast growing. And then outside of Alani Nu, both Ghost Energy and C4 Energy have a more balanced gender ratio that will add to the competition. Celsius will need to continue targeting new and existing female consumers where they live, work, and play, building meaningful emotional connections through a robust integrated marketing programs. They need to lean into the health and wellness trend as functional clean energy is recognized throughout the industry as a driver of future growth with retailers and customers. Want to quickly mention around like the inventory build. And if you glance the earnings release, you might have caught that the net inventories went from $18 million at the end of 2020 to $191 million at the end of 2021. That's a massive increase, even for a business that's doubling year over year. So, why the jump in net inventories? Firstly, like 15 to 20% of that inventory is associated with packaging components. It's still a very like difficult environment for getting aluminum cans. So Celsius has prepaid a large expense in that area to ensure stock levels are maintained. The same can be said in terms of prepayment with critical raw materials. So a lot of that is associated with some of those prepayments, but Celsius does want to have like 90 to 100 days on hand of finished inventory. That number is a bit higher right now. even when you're factoring in some of the projected growth rates. The net inventory growth is a kind of sticker shock, but I actually think having extra of like the right inventory is the best utilization of capital if it doesn't pinch your other areas in your business. So, just want to end on some final thoughts. Celsius has reached another inflection point in its operations and overall growth, one that positions Celsius for additional exponential growth and market share gains. The company has committed the right level of resources to maximize this opportunity. It should see concurrent expansion in ACV across all channels while also increasing retail velocities. The setup looks quite great for Celsius in 2022, but it won't be without challenges and competition breathing on Celsius Holdings from all directions. I do hope you guys enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, consider hitting that like button to support me. Also, help me get to my short term goal of 2,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that slightly less than 80% of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But just want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.